Hello, welcome. This isn't going to be another IO reviews, and this time we're talking about Fuller House. Don't mind the gameplay footage, it's going to be crappy, just roll with it. Alright, so we're talking about Fuller House Season 3, and I watched the good part of my last Fuller House season review to kind of just get a feel for what I was looking for come this season and to see how everything kind of panned out from back then till now. And first off, I want to apologize for how shitty that video is, but that's not important. Let's talk about Fuller House Season 3. Because, oh my god, or rather, oh my Lanta, you fucked up this show. So, in Season 2, I was really optimistic. I was like, you know what, it's dumb, it's stupid, it's goofy, but you know what, I have fun with it. Call it a guilty pleasure, call it a good time that you're gonna wake up next to the next morning and painfully regret. But you know, it's enjoyable, so it's cool, you know. Not the case with Season 3. We're gonna start off by I'm gonna pretty much click through the videos and just look at what happens with everything that just goes so wrong so fast. Sorry about that little thing. Also, again, sorry for the footage. It kind of sucks. Okay, so by episode 1, we start out with Steve-O is getting married, and yes, I know his name is Steve, but I'm calling him Steve-O because I want to. Steve is getting married, and it's a big deal. You know, it is a big deal for him to be getting married because he's getting married to CJ, not DJ. Even though that's still really stupid and really confusing, it's a big deal. So he's getting married to CJ, and that gets mentioned maybe twice in this entire season. So it's not like a big thing throughout the show, and it's not something you have to worry about or be concerned with. This is a plot line that will only be covered 2 more times in the rest of the show. And they kind of started off, it's a big thing that they should have paid way more attention to than how they did. And it's almost kind of painful how much they don't give this what could be a really interesting plot line the time in this season. It will be covered heavily in Season 4. And yes, there will be a Season 4, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the meantime. But it's important to talk about this revelation in episode 1, because that's also the episode where you find out that Kimmy Gibbler is not going to be the wedding planner for the wedding. The other big thing that's important that you find out is that not only is she not going to be the wedding planner, but the wedding takes place in Japan. Now, I was okay with this. I was okay with it being a Japanese wedding. I was even interested. I'm like, ooh, this could be kind of cool, you know? Finally get Full House out of San Francisco, kind of see how they interact with other environments. You know, let's see where this show can go, essentially. And apparently, it went directly to cultural appropriation. Now, I don't think of myself as a PC warrior. I think of myself almost as the exact opposite. I say jokes that piss people off. I try to be very un-PC because I see the humor in it, if I'm honest. But just how far they go with this kind of pissed me off. So let's talk about this. So, Kimmy is a wedding planner. The wedding is going to be in Japan, and the reason the wedding is in Japan is not because any CJ or Steve have family in Japan. It's because the stepdad lives there. What was that word? What was that word I just said? Oh, I'm going to have to deal with that in a second. Lives there and is paying for the entire wedding. So first off, the entire reason they're going to Japan is because money. Not because they actually need to, but money. You're doing great, Fuller House. So not only is it money that they're going for, Gimme desperately wants to be the wedding planner for this wedding for some reason. And starts going on this quest to show Steve-O and CJ that she is heavily dedicated to the Japanese culture and she knows everything about the Japanese culture and ways, so that she is the only proper fit to be the wedding planner for this wedding. Never mind the fact that she has literally said in the same episode that she knows nothing about Japanese culture and doesn't understand why that's a problem. She's also taking the job away in this hypothetical situation. She's also taking the job away from the Japanese wedding planner who, for all intents and purposes, should be getting this job. Okay, fair enough. So what does she do to show that she's dedicated to the crafts? Well, like every intelligent white person who wants the job of something that she clearly does not deserve. I don't know why I threw in the white part. That was slightly racist of me. Good job, Raven. She throws on a kimono, does the Japanese, almost kind of goes through the motions of doing a Japanese wedding ceremony and all this other fun stuff when she has no idea what she's doing. She does this whole Benihana skit and it's just a disaster. Now, I'm not saying that I have any right to claim I have any right or any wealth of total knowledge when it comes to the Japanese wedding culture, but I do know that this is a number of things that just don't fly, kiddo. And Fuller House has pulled off all of them. All of them in just a single episode. And it's like, good job. By episode 3, I already hate your show. Continuing. The rest of the show, for some reason, has musical bits. Because that's what the show was missing. It kind of feels like John Stamos, who is still the producer of the show, was like, hey, I just found out that musicals exist. We should do a musical season. For no reason. And I do mean for literally almost no reason. The season starts out with a dream sequence from Max, who is still as flamboyant as ever, and I love him dearly. Dreaming about the best summer ever, and a whole musical number goes with it, and it's a lot of fun until he wakes up and it's just a dream. Wow, I'm really bad at that. It's been an entire dream sequence, and apparently he's in love with musicals because it's a very flashy dream sequence. Now, the other thing I'm kind of curious about is why was this season so short? You put in the cultural appropriation, you put in this musical bit that has to now apparently be a part of the Fuller House formula, and it just seems so unnecessary. But then to also cut off the show and only making 8 episodes long instead of the 12 episodes the past 2 seasons have been, really just doesn't make sense. It almost kind of feels like the showrunners themselves know that the show really isn't worth pushing for all that much and just didn't put in the work. Which makes it even weirder when you think that it's a sitcom. This is a show that really doesn't need a lot of work to be done. It just has to get the basics through. If you can get the basics through, you're pretty much scot-free. And that's the other issue that I really have with the show. While I'm still, as of yet, not going into spoiler territory, and you'll find there was a large part of the show that takes all of the characters and, through ways that I will talk about later, puts them back in the exact same place that they were in season 1. And, oh, those are beautiful eyes. And let's talk about why this is a giant issue. You take all this work that season 2 had, which by no means was a perfect season, but it got the job done and put characters in new positions, and you almost strip all of that away. With the exception of the musical bit, you could, oh, I should have gone back for him. You could have taken all of the season 3 episodes, threw them in randomly into season 1 and season 2, and you couldn't really tell the difference of which episodes were which once you take out the musical bit. And it just feels really flat. It feels like there was a lot more that could have gone on and could have went into this, but just never really happened. And it's really disappointing to see the potential that the show had kind of just evaporate. So not only does the show culturally appropriate the shit out of Japan, put the characters back where they used to be. Put the characters back where they used to be in season 1. Don't know why I repeated that, but I'm tired. Leave me alone. But also has random musical bits. The story that is kind of given in these 8 episodes doesn't have a central focus. Like, the entire season takes place over the summer. Cool. Maybe it's a weekly show, and each episode is supposed to represent a week of the summer. Cool. Right on, dude. The issue with that is almost laughably that not only was your premise kind of doomed to screw you up, but it's also not a premise that you can carry. Like, so we see it's not so much carry. It's also a premise that they kind of give up on almost immediately. So one of the first things you see happen is you see Jackson go to summer school, which almost immediately erases the need for almost releases the entire need for this to be and take place in the summer. It's like, okay, so if we have one of our main characters going to school anyway, why is it so important that this takes place during the summer? It doesn't. And it feels off that he's going to summer school. Especially when the first thing you do in the new season is show that everyone's not in school anymore, and it's such a great thing. The other issue that I kind of have is that it doesn't. It's all the characters now, because it is summer, really don't have a reason to come back. And I'm talking about the side characters. They kind of just show up in these episodes. Well, in previous seasons, there was like a holiday or a birthday or something. There was a reason for them to be there. And in this, they simply just wasn't there. And it almost becomes jarring when you have one of these old characters come back, like Uncle Jesse, like Bob Saget's dad character, whose name I'm completely forgetting because sometimes I'm a horrible person, or like Joey. Like, I love how I remembered fucking Uncle Jesse and Joey, but I don't remember the dad. Awesome. But it doesn't make sense for these characters to come back because it's the summer, and they do have a 4th of July episode, which, again, super weird that the show came out yesterday, that this video comes out on today on the day of recording. It just seems super weird and off. I don't know. So, besides all of that, let's get into spoiler territory. Let's talk about how the show ends, why I have such a big issue with it. What do I mean by I put all the characters back to where they were? This is your spoiler warning. If you do want to watch this season for some reason, because you like guilty pleasures, like me sometimes, this is the time to get out now. I'm assuming you're gone now, so don't be angry for spoilers. Alright, so let's talk about what I mean by all the characters are back. Well, a large part of season 3 is kind of just hanging out, day by day stuff, almost filler episodes for what would otherwise be story arcs going on. Well, for some reason, it's almost like they remembered in the season finale, if you can even call it that oh yeah, there's supposed to be a point to all of this, and after the second episode, or maybe the third episode, well, we see Kimi putting on her kimono and trying to really impress Steve-O with her knowledge of Japanese culture. We don't really see anything from the wedding story arc. I mean, there's a moment in one of the episodes that creates this awkward tension. Where there's a moment where there's awkward tension where DJ puts on CJ's dress, but even then, that ends too quickly for it to develop into anything. It pushes this. There are all these hidden feelings underneath the surface type things that get hinted about here and there and kind of discussed here and there, but it doesn't really go anywhere in this season. And that's, I think, the biggest issue season 3 has of Fuller House. It feels like a fluff filler season for what could potentially be a really awesome season 4 and a decent season 2. Season 3 just, it doesn't feel like I watched anything significant. It feels like everything I did watch that was significant could have been covered in like 2 episodes of another season, and it's just disappointing that that's the way it comes across. Like in the season finale, you have everyone's going on a plane to go to the Japanese wedding. And everyone's so happy and excited to be going on this plane. Cool. Well, it turns out DJ, DJ, there's a little difference. DJ, the sister, all of a sudden now has Kimi and whatever her other name is. I can only forget because my memory sucks and the show was half being paid attention to. She's like, oh hey, doesn't it kind of suck that now we're going to Steve's wedding and it means that you can't be with the person you truly love? And all this other crap that was resolved in season 2. It's like, no, she's with Matt now and the love triangle is solved and everything's good and everything's great. We don't have to have any more of this love triangle going on because we've solved it. Everything's good. Everything has been resolved. We can move on. And in the season finale, they just kind of bring it back for really no reason. It's like, why is this here? I don't know, but now we have to deal with it. And the season finale, and the season ends with DJ sitting in a plain chair, and Steve's right next to her, and she has earphones on and eye mask on, and she thinks she's talking to her sister, and she's like, you're right. I probably should have told Steve that in season 2, in season 2 in the gondola or whatever, something it's a reference to season 2 where she has a choice between Matt and Steve, and she tells Matt she wants to be with Matt, and they go off and ride in the sunset, and she says, well, I should have told Steve that I wanted to be with him. It was the high school reunion. That's what it was. I forgot. At the high school reunion, I should have told Steve that I wanted to be with him, but I didn't. And season 3 ends with all these characters kind of being placed in boxes. So you have Steve over here freaking out, now taking shots because he's about to go to a wedding. He's about to go to his wedding, and when it turns out his high school sweetheart still kind of digs him. You have Max, who's sitting in first class because of a 1 episode story arc that happened with Fernando. And their rivalry is still going strong, despite in season 2 that being pretty much solved and raked under the rug by the end of season 2. And just a bunch of things that don't seem to fit anymore. So you have Fernando and Max facing off. You have Steve in one corner hanging out. You have DJ hanging out, and everything kind of just being in their own little world, which kind of was this perfect parallel for how the entire rest of the season went. While everything is connected by a thin line, I will admit it is connected. And it just feels like an empty filler season in total, and that's just disappointing. I wanted more from the season. I wanted Max's rivalry with Taylor go somewhere, although a brief mention. I wanted something important to happen. And you can argue that the ending of Ramona and Paco's relationship ending as something critical and something important, but it really isn't. When you look at their relationship, they get mentioned like maybe in 4 episodes within the entire series, and that's about it. And it just ends suddenly and quickly, and it's like, oh, I'm glad we spent time at all on this when now it's just done. Cool. But all in all, that's everything I have to say about the show. I wish it was better. I wish there was more momentum to keep it going. I'm going to run away from this now. I wish there was more momentum to keep it going, and I wish I could just talk more about it. But there really isn't a reason to. So, I'll see you in my next video, guys. I hope you guys, if you guys had any different feelings, or if you feel like I missed something out, let me know in the comment section down below. And tell me what Netflix show I should review next. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.